Hello. This is Vicky D talking about breaking up is hard to do. So why break up when you can make up? So,
Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
what's
Had as
that?
much of you as I can take. I'm so done, so over being afraid. I've gone through the motions, I've been back and forth. I know that you're thinking you've heard this before. I don't know how to say it, so I'm just gonna say it, yeah. Fear you don't own me. There ain't no room in this story. And I ain't got time for you telling me what I'm not. Like you know me. Well, guess what? I know who I am. I know I'm strong. And I am free. Got my own identity. So fear you will never be welcome here. Take a minute, let it settle in. You probably never saw it coming. Something's gotta give, so I give up you. Oh, there's no room for you here, yeah.
This is Vicky D, and you have joined me on Breaking Up is Hard to Do. This is the first program, so we're going to have some fun. My purpose here is to help you look at why you feel like breaking up and ask the question, is there a possibility that you could make up? Because breakups are really, really hard to do, and they are very painful. So I'd like to start by telling you how I ended up in this radio program. I am an engineer. I'm the last person you would think that would be talking about breaking up and making up, much less anything touchy-feely. But it started many years ago when I met my first husband. He was my sweetheart, high school. Do you remember that day when you first met your lover and time stopped? And you looked at him and you said, oh my God, is this the one? Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but for sure time stopped. And it was so obvious that my future father-in-law told my husband before we were married to stop coming into the store because I worked for his parents, because I couldn't work after he left. Do you remember those feelings? Completely numb. You just, you're like, oh my God, what was that? Well, long story short, we got married when I was 21. And 27 years later, I woke up one day, well, it was actually 21 years later, I went into a depression. And it wasn't just a depression, it was a suicidal depression, which meant all day long, all I would think about is, should I kill myself today? Which, as some of you probably know, is not a fun way to spend the day, but I spent a lot of time sleeping. And, it wasn't a good thing. Fortunately, I was going to a psychiatrist, and he kept me going. Finally, he said to me, okay, are you really going to do it? You're going to do it, right? And I said, nope, I'm still here. And that's 6 years later. And it just so happened the weekend before I'd been to a Beach Boys concert. Can you imagine you're standing at a Beach Boys concert and they're singing Surfer Girl and you're trying to figure out, wow, should I cut my wrists or maybe take the car and run over a cliff or poison? Maybe that would be good. But I finally came to my senses when the doctor says, you're really going to do it. And it finally, the light went on, and the light was, I'm trying to kill the wrong person. Now, that doesn't mean I was supposed to kill my husband. I certainly had no thoughts of killing him. But it did mean that I had to kill the marriage. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I grew up believing that when you got married, you made a commitment. And till death do us part. Well, I guess I was taking that pretty seriously. I was going to kill myself so I could get out of it. But I don't think that was the intent. When you think about that commitment that you make, the commitment works as long as it works for both of you. And if through the years we change, life happens, the children come along, the jobs, the disappointments, all the things that happen in your life, grain by grain, they build up to become a festering bubble. And one day that bubble breaks. And it's at that point you finally make that decision. I have to get out of here. Because you have one responsibility in your life. You were created by God, and your responsibility is to keep that creation alive, healthy, and happy. And if you don't do that, then you're going to be miserable. You're going to be stuck in what I would call earthly hell, because you can't even see the sunshine. You can't see the colors, the beautiful flowers, the beautiful birds, because you're so wrapped up in your head, in your misery. You become what I call the walking dead. So this show is all about, let's get out of being the walking dead and be the walking, amazing, joyful person that you can be. And all it takes now, use that word all, is a decision to wake up and become aware of what it is that's making you so miserable. Because I'm going to tell you something you don't want to hear. It's not your partner. It's not your home. It's not your job. It's not your environment. It's not the city you live in. It's you. You are the only one that can make you miserable. So let's talk about that. I decided that I would write a book about my experience. I mean, after 27 years, yes, I did finally get a divorce. And my children were 19 and 21. And they said something profound. And if you have kids and you're going through this right now, your children know exactly what's going on. They're not saying anything, but they are standing in the background, absorbing all of the quiet, tense, silent moments, or the very stilted conversations. They know. They can feel that negative energy. They know that something's not right. So when I finally got the divorce, I decided to leave their father. They said to me, well, gee, Mom, what took you so long? And I thought, oh, my God, they knew. They knew what was going on. This was not a surprise for them. But then the question becomes, wow, did my actions screw them up so that when they get in relationships, they will copy what I did? They'll stay in a bad relationship until there's just no point of return. So I decided I needed to write a book so that I could pass this information on to everyone out there who is going through this same thing. And what this book discovered, what I discovered writing this book, is that there's a process for going from misery to absolute happiness. And it's called, Who Am I? Do you ever go through your day and actually ask that question? Who am I? Why am I here? What's my purpose? Why am I on earth? Am I here to do something amazing? Or am I here as a support for someone else? Why am I here? Think about the work that went into making you. Your parents, what they did. They sacrificed, who knows what they sacrificed when they had children. It may have been an easier life. It could have been not having to be worried all the time, because I'll guarantee you that whatever they went through, you will become that, because you're going to absorb it as a child. So what I discovered is that there's two people in us. Yeah, sounds like we're schizophrenic. Well, we are. There's what I call the real us, real me, and there's the unreal me. When you are born, you have nothing in your brain other than survival skills. You cry, you smile. That's it. You don't talk, you can't communicate, but you don't have all of the garbage in your brain yet. You don't have an ego. You just don't. Your main focus is on yourself for survival. But you do have one thing, is you are programmed genetically for a specific personality type. So you're going, what? What is that? Nah, can't be. It is. We have very specific preferences for how we do things. So it took me a long time to figure out that it wasn't just my personality that was a problem. It was also all the things that I had learned by watching my parents, what I had absorbed by watching television, movies, talking to my friends, going to church. All those things were buried in my subconscious if they were scary. So, as an example, I have a very difficult time with men of authority. And the reason is because my father yelled at me all the time. Now, that doesn't sound too bad, but as a little kid, you're not exactly excited about having this big guy yelling and screaming at you. I was the oldest of two girls, so I took responsibility seriously. And if any of you want to know about your oldest child, there is a book called Firstborn by Kevin Leman. And I recommend you get it because there's a lot of very, very, very good advice in there. Because firstborn children act totally different than a secondborn child. So anyway, I took responsibility for my baby sister. Also, one other ingredient in who I am. When I was 4 years old, I had measles. Now, this story about my measles is important with what's going on today. Measles outbreaks everywhere because people did not get their children vaccinated. That's horrible. You know why? Because I had the measles and I lost 50% of my hearing. My parents would hide an alarm clock on me, and they thought it was funny because I couldn't find it. I have no sense of direction for where sound comes from. I cannot hear a harpsichord or any instrument in a high frequency. There are some women that when they talk to me, I absolutely cannot understand what they're saying because my hearing loss is in the upper and upper female speaking range. So probably no surprise that I went into engineering because it's mostly men. So I don't have any problem understanding them. But I'm pleading to you, if you're listening to this and you have children you have not vaccinated for measles, please do it. You cannot imagine what it's like to live your life being vigilant 24/7 because you can't hear. You don't know if somebody's coming up behind you. You don't know. I don't know if there's a car behind me, if somebody's talking to me and they're behind me. I haven't a clue if they're talking to me or what they're doing. On top of that, if you are speaking to me, I can read lips, but I might not get everything you say. So, to put it mildly, there are times when I go into a pity party really feeling sorry for myself. It's like, damn it, I am so tired of having to watch everything so that I know what's going on. So this adds on to the whole unreal me thing. Is that there are experiences that I had as a child that are buried inside of me that when I got married and was in a relationship, if something happened that even resembled those experiences, I reacted. So think about the arguments that you have. Every relationship has arguments. And the truth of the matter is, there's just points, moments of frustration because you feel that that person doesn't see you, they don't hear you, you just feel invisible. The other person, your partner, standing there with their mouth open, trying to figure out what the heck just happened. They don't know about the worms in the back of, buried in your subconscious. They don't know about those horrible experiences that you had that will, your brain just pops up and says, okay, we got to get out of here because this is going to happen again. Our partners they don't have any idea why we're reacting the way we are. And the truth of the matter is, we don't know why we're acting the way we are. Until those things come forward, we have no idea that those experiences are just buried there just in time so your brain, which is going to protect you, can quickly send this thing to your brain to say, okay, get out of here. It's just is where it is. So 90% of relationship problems are caused because we are not aware of these things that are buried within us. And the individual that we're with has no idea that they are pushing those buttons. So it's kind of like the definition of insanity. You keep doing the same argument over and over and over again, and nothing changes. It just doesn't change. Because you're not aware of what's causing your reaction. Therefore, you can't sit there and say, oh, this is really not important. Why am I arguing? So that's what I decided when I wrote my book, is that I needed to point out the difference between your personality type compatibility and what's buried in the brain that's just waiting there to protect you. So can you guys think? If you're listening, can you think about what some of those arguments are? Write them down. Write down one argument that you keep having over and over and over again. And when I say that, I don't mean every day or twice a day. I mean these arguments pop up maybe once a month, every 3 months, whatever. But they keep popping up because you never, ever get them resolved, because you don't know what's making you react the way you're reacting. After I got divorced, I sat down. You know, I was blaming it on him, of course. The psychiatrist asked me to write a letter to my husband and tell him what I wanted. And he and my father had built a house, very nice home, but I hated that house because I was never asked what I wanted. So it wasn't my house, it was his house. So we lived in that house for 5 or 6 years, and there was a lot. Well, to be honest, I slept most of the time I was in that house. The kids said to me, Mom, you slept through our teenage years. Yep, I think I did. At that time, I was going to college. I was older, working on a mechanical engineering degree. And so I went to school, I went to work, I went to sleep. And that was my day. I was avoiding everything but getting done what I needed to get done. So I wrote a letter to the husband that said, all I want to do is sell this house and buy one that we both like. That's all. That's all I wanted. Sell this house and buy one that we both like. And his answer, because he was an engineer, it's very factual. Oh, we can't do that. Because in his mind, it didn't make sense. Why would we want to do that? I made this house. So at that point, when he told me that, no, I can't do that, I realized this is how I interpreted it. I'm sure he didn't interpret it this way. I interpreted it as he chose the house over me. So I went upstairs, got out a suitcase, and promptly went and checked into the nearest resort. I said, that's it, I'm out of here. Of course, he was stunned. Couldn't figure out what the heck he'd done. But the truth was, we really, after 27 years, we really didn't have anything in common anymore. You know, in the beginning, to put it bluntly, there was a lot of chemistry. Sex was good. We enjoyed each other. But as time went on, it got weaker and weaker. And then it got to a point where I thought that he was cheating on me, but I didn't know. So it just was, you know, the last 10 years were really, really uncomfortable. But I made that commitment till death do us part. I was not going to get a divorce. But I didn't know how to change myself, because it was me, in order to be comfortable with the way things were at that time. So I did get the divorce. And of course, if any of you are thinking about breaking up, I don't care whether it's a relationship or what it is, even a job, a career, or moving, you're going to go through a grieving period. You're going to be angry at first, and you can't believe you did it. And so there's going to be that disbelief, the crying, man, what did I do? And then at the end, you will accept it. But it's painful. It's just, there's no easy way to do it. In my mind, the easy way to do it is that if I had known what the problem really was, which was me, and what I needed, I would have at least sat down and explained it to him and given him an option for both of us to make some changes to compromise. But at that point, I didn't know. So I got the divorce. So what I'm telling you here is I have, like I said, I wrote a book. It's called Together But Alone, The Secret to a Drama-Free Decision to Go or Stay. Because I figured out, after I got the divorce, I went through all these experiences of asking myself why. Why did I do this? I mean, God, it's totally turned my life upside down. But there was that sense of freedom. So that's when I finally discovered, and I don't think this is just a female problem. I suspect it's the same for men, is that as the years go by, we totally lose our identity. When we meet each other, we're either, if we're young, we're still living at home. We haven't been out by ourselves. I've heard that the millennials are taking a much longer time for forming relationships. Fabulous. Because we all need that time to understand who we are. But if you go from your parents to getting married, you don't know who you are. You think you know who you are, but you're so intent on forming a life with someone else and making them happy that a lot of you disappears. And that is the same for each person in the relationship. So after the divorce, I discovered I did not know who I was. And fortunately, at that point in time, I was on the board of directors for the Women Engineers, and they gave me the Myers-Briggs assessment. This is the key to the whole thing, guys. We're going to talk about this. Is your personality type has a huge, huge impact on how you interact in life. Because your personality type is what you prefer. If you are in a relationship that goes against that preference, or the person you're with doesn't recognize it as being a valid increment of your personality, then it's going to eventually grind and grind and grind, and you will end up breaking up. But that same premise actually goes along with your job. Hey, if you're working at a job that is not right for you, not aligned with your preferences, you're going to be miserable. But the thing is, you won't know why you're miserable. So that's why I'm on this program. I want to help you understand why you're miserable so you can get rid of it, because you don't have to have it. It's not necessary. It's just, there's, as we say in business and engineering, there's no value added to being miserable. It's just not, it's not right. I don't think our Creator ever thought that we would want to be miserable, or maybe, who knows. But so all I'm saying is, my purpose in this program is to answer your questions, to listen to you, and help point you in the right direction. Because you're not going to make yourself unmiserable in 5 minutes. That doesn't happen. It's kind of like peeling an onion. You have to peel the layers off and peel the layers off until you finally get down to the real you. And there you are. This is me. I love me. I am fabulous. I am awesome. And there is nothing anyone can say to me that would make a difference. Because I know I am perfect, just the way I am. So it took me a couple of years to figure that one out. Meanwhile, I decided that I did not want to spend my life alone, and so I decided, okay, let's see if there's somebody else out there for me. Now, this is maybe 3 or 4 months after the divorce. I know it seems like it's kind of fast, but I knew that there was somebody else out there waiting for me. So I went to this thing called Divorce Recovery. And if you have it in your city, it's usually offered in a church. If you're in Arizona, I know they have it. I heartily recommend you go to it, even if you're not divorced, because they start explaining why you have relationships and you're feeling empty. And it's kind of like a donut with a hole, and you're looking for the donut hole to fill it so that you're going to be one complete piece. Well, that doesn't work, because you have to be whole first before you could be in a relationship where you're happy. So let's continue on this journey to find out, who are you? Why are you here? what is it that you truly desire? What is it that's been buried all these years because you were walking dead? You were immersed. You were completely in a cocoon of life. Cooking, cleaning, taking care of the children, taking care of the husband, doing this, doing that, all those things that did not help you. And the guys, same thing. Whether you're cooking and cleaning or whatever you're doing, but you have that sense of responsibility that you have to take care of the family. And so it's holding you in a state where you're not taking the time to figure out, who are you? What do I really love to do? And why, how come I can't do it? Because you don't take the time to figure it out. So hopefully this program, which will be on every Saturday for an hour, will help you start digging in and figuring out who you are. So it's so important. We're going to talk about the real you, your personality type, and then we're going to start digging into the not real you. So I think it's time to take a bio break. So we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then I'll get back and we'll start with the personality types.
My heart is lit up. In case you didn't hear it, here it is again. Oh, fear you don't own me. There ain't no room in this story, and I ain't got time for you telling me what I'm not. Like you know me, well, guess what? I know who I am. I know I'm strong, and I am free, got my own identity. So fear you will never be welcome here. Is there anybody out there just like me? Anybody needing fear to leave? If you don't know how to say it, sing along with me. Sing, fear you don't own me. There ain't no room in this story, and I ain't got time for you telling me what I'm not. Like you know me, well, guess what? I know who I am. I know I'm strong, brave, and I am free. Got my own identity. So fear you will never be welcome here. Whoa. Goodbye, goodbye, fear. Whoa. You will never be welcome here.
I'm back. So we are going to talk about personality types. So get a piece of paper and be ready to take some notes for you to really know who you are. So if you don't want to know who you are, that's fine with me. Doesn't matter. I like knowing who I am because then I understand why I'm so weird, but that's, that was an interesting thing. When I took this exam, the assessment, I found out that I'm only like 2% of the proper population, which makes me a little unusual. And it explains so much because I never ever felt like I fit in. I always felt in my job that nobody knew what to do with me. And, I don't know. I was always being kind of criticized because I didn't do things when people wanted me to do them. I said I was a procrastinator. But as it turned out, no, I wasn't a procrastinator. I was doing things my way. So I know when I die, my tombstone is going to say she did it her way. And it's because of my personality type. Now, 75% of you out there you meet me and you go, oh man, okay, she's fun, but you would be a little questioning, where's she coming from? So let's start at the beginning. So if you want to take the assessment, and it's free, you could go to www.human, Human, metrics, M as in Mary, ETRICS.com, and take the assessment. Now, there are 16 different personality types. And from what I've read, it started with Plato in 350 BC. Poor guy had nothing to do but sit around and watch people, which that's kind of cool. That's my favorite thing to do. You ever gone to Disneyland or sat and watched people? Better yet, go to New York City and sit and watch people. You're going to see all sorts of really interesting things. I saw a lady in hot pink, high-heeled boots and a tight skirt pushing a pram with a poodle that had hot pink clothes on. That was a blast. Okay, so there are 16 different personalities. And this is the way it works. Your personality type is how you prefer to do things. So when you take this assessment, you're going to find it says, do you like to do this or do you like to do that? So it's very possible you like to do both. So it's kind of like ice cream, vanilla or chocolate. If you prefer chocolate, you'd rather have chocolate, then check that one off. So when you have the choice, pick the one you'd rather do. Because through the years, what's happened is that when your jobs and the things that you're doing, they have conditioned you to act maybe against your preference. As an example, a person who is an introvert and does not like presenting anything to anyone has learned to do presentations and getting up in front of people because they had to. They don't prefer to do that, but if they want to keep their job and keep doing what they're doing, then they do it. But if you gave them a choice, would you rather, instead of getting in front of all these people, do an online presentation? I'm willing to bet that 9 times out of 10, they take the online because they don't want to be around a lot of people. So let's start this. There's 4 what they call dichotomies. And so there's 4 pairs of letters. The first pair is how you interact in the world. It's how you get your energy, how you interact, how you speak with people, how you take in information. And so the first letter is E for extrovert. What that means, extroverts love to talk. Now, you could be a mega extrovert, which means you just can't shut them up, or you could be a person that's you really prefer to talk, but, not that much. So, but it is your way for taking information. And one way for knowing whether you're an extrovert or not is if you go to a party and you really chose to go to this party and you get there and you get high on all the excitement of being around the people and the interactions, you're probably an extrovert. if you're an introvert and you go to this party, you're going to say, where's the corner so I can read my book? Now, my husband's an introvert, and he wants to be in the corner. But if you put him together with people that he has common interests with, he loves interacting one-on-one. He just doesn't like to be around big groups. So the first dichotomy is introvert, extrovert. Now, I get questions all the time as to why are there so many extroverts? Okay, the reality is there aren't so many extroverts. Extroverts and introvert percentages are almost the same. And in fact, there are more introverts than there are extroverts. So why is it? Why is it that you think there are more extroverts? Because they're obvious. They're out there. You see them. You don't see the introverts. Your introverts are the ones that are quietly sitting behind the scenes, doing code, doing the taking care of all the data, the invoicing, all of the administrative, the things that don't require them to be interacting with a lot of people. Introverts need time to process information. So my husband, who I said is an introvert, we had this argument about once a month, every couple of months. He would say to me, you don't listen to me. I thought, well, man, I'm listening to you. You know, I'm an extrovert. I'm talking, asking questions, and then talk, and asking questions, and not really waiting for him to say something. He would say something, but it wasn't what he was thinking. And so when I finally went in and took the facilitator course for Myers-Briggs, I realized, oh, no, I have not been giving him time to process what I asked him or what we were discussing. So if you have this problem with coworkers, with people you're in a relationship, with family, just stop and give them time to process what it is you're talking about so that they can give you a valuable answer. So most extroverts just don't even know that introverts need time. And it was interesting, Amazon actually changed their meetings. If any of you work and you're in meetings all the time, who runs the meetings? The extroverts, of course. Introverts are just sitting there and they're not saying a thing. Amazon changed their meeting, agenda. First 15 minutes, all of the questions or the issues that were to be discussed were looked at and reviewed in silence for 15 minutes. And then the discussion started. So that gave the introverts time to process what they were going to be talking about so that they could state what was really on their mind. So just keep this in mind. If you're a chatty Cathy or you stop and take a breath, particularly if the person that you're talking to is not giving you, it's not coming and talking, they're not feeding back any information. Because they need time. And hey, ask them. Do you need a little time to process that? There's nothing wrong with that. That's a courtesy. So the first dichotomy is extrovert, E, or introvert, I. So write that down, E, I. Okay. The next one is intuitive, that's N as in Nancy, intuitive, or sensing, that's S as in Sam. So what that's all about is how you digest information. In other words, how are you taking it in? How are you digesting? How do you go about getting it? An intuitive person, and there are only 25% intuitives in the population. I'm one of those. The intuitive sees the big picture. They don't necessarily concern themselves with details. They can, but they are the creators. They're your innovators. You're the people who come up with the ideas. If you have a friend or if you work with somebody that has lots of ideas and they just can't stop giving you ideas, they're more likely to be an intuitive. The sensing person is the factual person. They see fact. They are not worried about ideas. They just see what's in front of them. So I kind of describe this as being the intuitive is the person who needs a room with big windows, and that's another sign. If you're married or with a person who's an intuitive, they love windows. Sensing person doesn't care about the windows. They just want to be able to look at the facts. So if you're an intuitive and you're talking to a sensing person, you better talk to them in facts or their eyes glass over. So my husband is sensing and I am intuitive. He has had the worst time understanding why I would go to a seminar and learning all this information and then don't do anything with it. And the truth of the matter is an intuitive loves knowledge. We can't not go to a seminar. It's just not within our bones there. We are constantly seeking knowledge. So if you are in a relationship with or work with someone who loves to go to seminars constantly, but they never seem to do anything with it, there's a good chance they're probably intuitive. So my husband and I had a lot of arguments about this, and of course it's just exactly like I said about arguments. You know, you argue and you wait a while and you argue again and you wait a while and you wait. It finally got to a point where I got, I'm tired of him not understanding that this is who I am. And so I finally told him, I said, look, I've been married, this is the second husband, 20 years up to this point. I told him, okay, you have a choice. You could either accept me the way I am, which means there's a good chance I'll probably take another seminar. I could tell you I'm never going to take another seminar, but you know that's a lie. I can't help myself. That's me. That's who I am. I might say no, and then all of a sudden, oh, man, I've got to do it, and I do it. So I said, your choice is you have to accept me the way I am. And if you can't do that, then it's adios. I need to leave. Because I can't keep feeling this guilt that you're unhappy with me. Because it's just not who I am. And I can't lie to you, and I don't want to every time I see a seminar. It's going to kill me because I can't do that. So he kind of looked at me and he said, oh, okay. So 26 years later, we're still together. So it's a matter of you have to know who you are and why you do the things you do. And if you're with someone that is constantly belittling you or giving you a hard time because that's who you are, you have to finally step up and say, this is who I am. And if you can't love me the way I am, then we need to split. Because eventually it's going to kill you. It will just destroy who you are. And that's not why you're on Earth. You're on Earth to maximize that personality that you were given. You have this personality for a reason. And this personality is amazingly creative. Why wouldn't you honor it? Now, on the other side, the sensing side, if you are with someone that has this intuitive personality, you really have to decide whether you're going to just recognize that's who they are and love them for it, or you're going to have to make a decision to go, because it's going to drive you crazy. So an intuitive has ideas. They see things. They see how things go from the beginning, from A to Z, and they know what it's going to look like. They visualize it. The sensing person only sees A. They don't go A to Z. They go A, B, C, D. So it drives them insane. So if there's a problem in a relationship between intuitive and sensing, if you're married to either one and you're the opposite, communications is going to be a big, big problem, because you don't see things the same way. You, the intuitive, sees possibilities. The sensing only sees fact. So, but if you're aware of this, then you can laugh about it together instead of arguing. And just acknowledge that, oh, that's the way they are. It's okay. I actually love the fact that my husband is sensing, because I don't really get into detail enough. But man, he sure takes care of all of that, so I don't have to worry about it. Okay, so that's the second dichotomy. Intuitive, which is an N, and sensing, which is an S. Third dichotomy, thinking and feeling. Now, thinking and feeling generally in a relationship shouldn't be a problem. It could be in a job. But the way you have to look at this is a thinking person is very factual, and they're objective when they're making decisions. So when the intuitive and the sensing is how you're taking into information, the thinking and feeling is how you're processing that information. So a thinking person, if they're asked to do something, their solutions will be for the good of everyone. If you're a feeling person and you're given a problem, their solutions will always be for the good of the person. Example, if you gave a thinking person a task of reducing the budget by 10%, the first thing they're going to look at is labor. How can we reduce the labor costs? The feeling person, the first thing they're going to do is how can we reduce all the other expenses so we keep all the people so we don't have to lay them off. You find feeling people in HR, they're nurses, they're doctors, they're therapists, they're counselors, they're people who really, really love people, and their purpose in life is to help them, enhance them. So some intuitives that are feeling are empaths. They feel everything that's going on around them, and that can be a problem for them sometimes. Okay, so third dichotomy, thinking, feeling. So write that down. The last dichotomy is a fascinating one, and it can cause problems in the work world. It can cause problems in relationships if they're not the same or they're misunderstood. It is what we call the judgment, but it's not judgmental. It's a J. which means they're very structured. The second letter is P, perceptive. They are not structured. So your J people love to plan. They love structure. They love lists. They love getting things done right now. Oh, you give them a task and then boom, they're on it immediately. Then we have the P's. It's perceptive. It doesn't mean procrastinator, okay? Your J's think that a P is a procrastinator. P's love to get things done just in time. They do not want to follow your rules, per se. If you tell them they have to get something done, you better give them a deadline, because if you don't, their brains are going to go, ooh, I can do this, I can do that, I can play, They don't normally start immediately on working on a project. What they do is, in their heads, they prioritize all of the tasks that they have to do. And they start with the one that's most fun. So I call the P's, they're flexible. If you want to go travel to another country the next day, hey, no problem. Okay, let's go. But if you told a J personality that you wanted to go traveling the next day, believe me, they would be very, very uncomfortable with the idea. They might have to go, but they are not comfortable. They don't have time to plan. They don't have time to make their list. They don't have time to do any of this. So the people that are most comfortable with change are your P's. I call them the just-in-time personalities, because you give them a task and they wait to the last minute, and then they might work 24 hours, but they get the job done, and they're exhilarated. They're absolutely ecstatic. They're just thrilled. Oh boy, I did it. Ha! Now, how do I know this? I'm a P. And fortunately, I'm married to one. So whenever we're very compatible on the, let's go here thing. But my first husband wasn't. He was a J. And it was always a problem getting him to do things on the spur of the moment. Although I don't think that's what really undid us. It was just, there were other things. It was the unreal things that undid us. So that's your last combination, the J and the P. So you have E, I, you have N, S, and you have T, F, and you have J, P. Okay, so my personality type is E, I'm extroverted, N, I'm intuitive, I'm the big picture idea person. I'm a T, I work with facts, and I'm like an inventor, creator, I see how to do things differently. And I am a P, I'm perceptive. I'm very easygoing, I don't have to plan. If somebody gives me a schedule, I will get it done. But I would really prefer to just do what I want when I want to do it. So I encourage you to go to Human Metrics and take the assessment and find out who you are. And if you're with someone, have them take the assessment and see what they are, and then look at the differences. And then I encourage you to write down one thing that you are always arguing about. And I don't mean putting the toilet paper on the wrong way, because that's the unreal person. So I'm encouraging you to Write something down you're fighting about, and then see if it has to do with the differences in your personality. I'll guarantee you it has something to do with either one person being late all the time or one person has too many ideas. So I'm going to leave you with this assignment. Take the assessment, and we'll get together next Saturday at 11 a.m. on Iconic Lotus Radio, and you're going to call in and tell me what your personality type is and one frustration, and then we'll talk about it. So this is Vicki D. I have a Facebook site, Vicki D's Relationship Advice. So come and visit me and ask me your questions. And I would love to listen to what you have to say. Goodbye for now.